Okay, so Act 3, Scene 2. This is where we have some major evidence of rhetoric going on in Julius Caesar. So, um, Brutus and Cassius are going to come into the scene, and the plebeians are there. They're gathered, right? The common people of Rome. They all are there to hear this explanation. That, let us be satisfied. We want answers. And Brutus starts off, he calls them friends. And they kind of take like a divide and conquer, I guess, strategy. He says, Cassius, you take half of the people, essentially, and I'll take the other half. And we will both tell you, like, why we killed Caesar, basically. And the plebeians say, like, we will compare their reasons to each other. I'll go with Brutus, I'll go with Cassius. We will determine, I don't know, we'll compare stories, I guess. So some people go with Cassius, some people stay with Brutus. And you can see that they still characterize Brutus, as this noble person. They say the noble Brutus has ascended silence. Okay. So what's important to know about Brutus is that Brutus is, like I said previously, his explanation here for why they murdered Caesar, it relies solely on logic, appealing to the plebeian's sense of reason, right? He thinks that just like the cold hard facts, no, sympathy or empathy or anything like that really is going to be enough to convince them like, oh, what were we thinking that you were a cold-hearted killer, right? Like, of course, the only choice that you had was to kill Caesar. So we'll see how that goes for him. So he relies primarily on logos, right? That's the foundation for his explanation. I read something that dubs his explanation the logic of treachery and betrayal. And I thought that was interesting. So Brutus here, if you can tell the structure here, like you see this is written in verse, and Brutus is speaking in free verse here, right? So he's not speaking in any sort of like iambic pentameter. He's speaking in just free verse, probably to try to match like the speech and match the language of the plebeians, right? Because they're commoners. They're not speaking with like a heightened, elevated sort of language. That's just kind of like a side note. So he says, Romans, countrymen, lovers, hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. Believe me for mine honor, and have respect to mine honor that you may believe. Listen to my reasons and be silent so you can hear me. Believe me on my honor, okay? Trust me because you view me as noble and honorable, right? And keep my honor in mind so you may believe me. Don't forget how you feel about me and how you view me. I am the noble Brutus, right? Censure me in your wisdom and awake your senses that you may better judge. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friends of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus's love to Caesar was no less than his. Okay? If there's anyone in this assembly, or before that, he says, be wise when you criticize me and keep your minds alert so you can judge me fairly. If there's anyone in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, I say to him that my love for Caesar was no less than his. Okay? So, trust me, I loved Caesar as much as you did. And yet there's not the commentary there, like, and so this pains me as much as it did, right? Or I'm heartbroken about this, or I feel terrible about this. Nothing like that, just facts. If then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. This is his motivation. This is supposedly his reasoning. Not that I love Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Okay, my answer is not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. He still is marketing that what he did was for the good of Rome, right? So, he uses rhetorical questions. He uses repetition. Here we have some examples of ethos, right? Credibility, trust me, right? I am the noble Brutus. Be wise so that you can judge me fairly. All that good stuff, or I guess good stuff. He says, had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves than that Caesar were dead to live all free men? Would you rather that Caesar were living and we should all go to our graves as slaves, or that Caesar were dead and we all lived as free? So those are the two worlds that Brutus lives in, right? Like, either Caesar was no doubt going to enslave us all, or he could be dead and we're all free. Look, I've freed you from potential for, becoming enslaved, I guess. He says, as Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. Okay? I weep for Caesar in that he was good to me. I rejoice in his good fortune, and I honor him for being brave. But his ambition, for that I killed him. So here, when they're talking about ambition, and Antony will talk about it as well, and they'll use this word a lot. But ambition here in this context is like a bad word. Ambition is like almost something like treason. Like, you can be tried for this, or like this is a crime to be ambitious. So there's that. Just keep that in mind when they use that word. He says, there's tears for his love and joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, his death for his ambition. Who is here so base that would be a bondman? If any speak, for him I have offended. Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? If any speak, for him I have offended. Here who is so vile that will not love his country. So he's saying that you're kind of vile if you're opposed to what I've done for our country. If any speak, for him have I offended. I pause for a reply. So he's saying basically, speak now, forever hold your peace if you think that what I did is so bad, right? He is trying to present himself as simply a concerned Roman citizen. That's why he did what he did. Not that he is a greedy, power-hungry murderer, basically. He wants to, convey that he was simply concerned for them. I did this because I was worried about you, right? He's appealing to their sense of reason. And everyone replies, none, Brutus, none. They're, being convinced. And Brutus is like, oh, great, I haven't offended anyone. Then none I have offended. I have done no more to Caesar than you shall do to Brutus. I haven't done to Caesar what somebody wouldn't do to me if I was like him. Okay? The question of his death is enrolled in the Capitol. His glory not extenuated, wherein he was worthy, nor his offenses enforced, for which he suffered death. His glory has not been diminished where he earned it, nor have those offenses for which he was killed been exaggerated. Well, the offenses, again, it's like, show us the list, right? Like what I wrote in my book, like what offenses? And if there is no offenses, they can't really be exaggerated. So now here comes Mark Antony. Mark Antony is going to come in bearing Caesar's body. He comes with the corpse of Caesar. And Mark Antony, or Brutus says, here comes Mark Antony. He's going to benefit from Caesar's death, and he'll receive a share of the commonwealth as you all will. He says, with these words, or with this I depart, that I slew my best lover for the good of Rome, that I have the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to need my death. With these words, just as I killed my best friend for the good of Rome, so will I kill myself when my country requires my death. So he is professing and he is proclaiming that he will in fact hold himself accountable when the time comes. And all of the plebeians react positively. Live, Brutus, live. let's carry him in triumph to his house. Let's carry Brutus to his house. He is so noble, right? And Brutus, or I say, let's give him a statue. Let's give the noble Brutus a statue, right? And he says, Caesar's better parts shall be crowned in Brutus. Caesar's better qualities exist in Brutus, and we will crown him. How convenient for Brutus. Brutus will allegedly, in this moment, for a fleeting moment, supposedly become the king of Rome now. And Brutus is like, oh, no, silence, Brutus speaks. Brutus says, oh, no, please, let me go by myself, right? Stay here for Antony. Listen to poor, pitiful Antony. Do grace to Caesar's corpse, grace his speech, tending to Caesar's glories. Mark Antony, by our permission, is allowed to make. I do entreat you, not a mad depart, save I alone till Antony have spoken. Okay? Oh no, pay respects to Caesar. Okay? Listen to Antony's speech. We've given him permission to speak. We see no threat with Antony. I ask that none of you leave except for myself until Antony is finished. Don't be rude, okay? Listen to what Antony has to say. And this is a mistake. This is a mistake that Brutus is making, right? Brutus is arrogant, and he takes for granted Antony's speech. He doesn't think that Antony's speech will threaten this kind of like weak, well, I'm being cynical because I think that this is, dumb. I think that Brutus is dumb here. But he doesn't think that Antony's speech will have any threat on his logical explanation that proved to be initially successful. It didn't spark mutiny or outrage among the plebeians for why Caesar was killed. So he doesn't see Mark Antony as any sort of threat here, okay? I will continue in my next video talking about Mark Antony and what he does in this scene.